Hey, aloha everyone. Michelle Melendez, author of A Great Maui Land Grab, What Caused the Maui Fire and Is Your Home Next? I was interviewed by Dan Happel yesterday. He is with Connecting the Dots and Patriots on Fire. He also has a Brighteon channel. This is a 2-hour interview and I was given permission to use the download, and I'm condensing it into just the introduction and the presentation of the Great Maui Land Grab. So this is the presentation I did at the Red Pill Expo in South Dakota last month. And a lot of you were asking about that presentation. This is that presentation with also just a little more input, a little bit more information, because I was only given 45 minutes at the Red Pill Expo. This is not a 2-hour interview that I'm going to condense it to just that presentation with the introduction. Please do share this video because people need to keep Maui in their mindset. It's coming up on a year of the attack on Maui, and we will be taking more actions. There's an interview that I'm waiting to happen, and once that happens, I'll be going to Maui, and we will be taking some action that I feel is going to support the people there. And so with no further ado, I do want to share my screen. Oh, the other thing too is if you want to get more information on this book and share it with other people, but get your copy, greatmauifire.com. That's the only place right now that this book is available, is greatmauifire.com. Please share that. And lastly, I do want to do a shout out to the sponsor who lets me do this work. And this is John Singleton of Ace of Coins. If you want to lower your taxes, if you want to learn how to buy Bitcoin tax-free, if you want to learn how to license your own biometric data, your face, your image, so that big tech has an issue to using it against your will, which they are doing right now, then aceofcoins.com is where to go. ACEOFCOINS. And the last shout out is to the Voice of Kona Radio, 100.5 FM. Mahalo so much for listening on the islands. And again, greatmauifire.com is how to get your copy of the book. Let me just check and make sure the sound is on, and then do a share screen and go here and show you guys the interview I did yesterday. Here we go.
This is a good program. This little gal is really, really sharp.
Sounds like a great video or interview. I know we have a lot of people out there very interested in what did happen in Maui, and what's been happening or not happening, as you pointed out earlier, since the fires.
Right.
Nothing's getting done.
Nothing's getting done. Yeah.
Got it all ready to go, Dan. So are you ready?
Okay. Yep, I'm ready. Just take it away. Thank you.
Let's do this.
Michelle Melendez, and Michelle was originally from California and actually lived in Paradise about the time that the Paradise fire occurred, which we know has a lot of problems, and we're going to be talking about that. And she now is living on the Big Island of Hawaii, but wrote her book about the fire, the catastrophic fire that wiped out literally the entire community of Lahaina on Maui. And she is going to be talking about all of the things that she discovered when she started to uncover that whole program. Yep. Michelle is an author. She's a freedom fighter extraordinaire. She has written a book about fitness and wellness. She's been an expert in that field since 1996. She's got a wonderful book that's called, and I'm going to find it, And Dieting Hell. That should be a good discussion on another time, on another subject. But today we're going to be talking about all the strange things that happened on Maui, on the Maui fire. So, Michelle, welcome to the program. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you and I have a lot of common ground when it comes to trying to unearth UN Agenda 21, the whole so-called sustainability agenda. and all the radicalism that is part and parcel of what they call a sustainable world. And there's a lot of things going on right now that people can't really understand. They don't really connect the dots, but today we're going to connect the dots for them, because all this stuff really is connected in a big way. Now, I think I mentioned to you when I saw you at the Red Pill Conference where you were a speaker, I mentioned that I had Dr. Barry Trower on as a guest on my program with Celeste Salam, and we had talked about the use of directed energy weapons. Dr. Trower he worked with the Royal Navy for 20-some years, working in directed energy weapons, and he was involved in that field in a very meaningful way. He has now become a whistleblower, talking about how so many of these weapons are being used against the people of the world in various ways. So let's talk about, and I'll let you lead into this any way you want to. I know you have a PowerPoint program that you're certainly welcome to share, but let's go ahead and get started, and you kind of lead this in however you want to do it.
Okay, thank you so much for having me again. So I've been a freedom fighter since the COVID, because you've said I've been a fitness and wellness expert since 1996. So I understand the human body, the immune system. I've been on the island since 2019. So I was here living during that time. So I started speaking out against it. I also spoke out against hand sanitizer, because hand sanitizer is actually poison for your microbiome in your gut. And just regular soap is what people should be using. So I started speaking out against that. And then when the Maui fire happened, I was on Big Island. And I remember a client asked me, "Are you okay? The fires, are going on in Maui. Where are you?" And we did have a fire here on Big Island. It was on the other side of the island from where I live. And I knew I was looking at it at first, and I was just wondering, okay, this is really weird. There was so many things that were off about it that I was hesitant to speak out, because speaking out against COVID, I got a lot of people here who was saying I was going to kill somebody's grandmother and all of this stuff. And a lot of people died in Maui in the fires. So I was pausing before I was speaking out, because I didn't want people to think I was disrespecting the people who had transitioned on. But when the governor spoke to the United Nations on September 17th, and the fire happened on August 8th, and what he was saying I knew was a complete lie. So I just was like, okay, I have to start speaking out. And I started speaking out against the narratives that he was saying around he was mainly talking at the UN about climate change. And for those of you, I'm going to be sharing a presentation in a moment that literally shows you how climate change is a narrative for these banking elite families to bring in their next investment, which is smart cities. So I'd love to just start with the presentation and show people what is going on with that.
Okay.
Let me do a screen share.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, good. And bring this down, and okay, pressing okay. There we go. And I'll just press play. All right. So I've been on island since 2019, but my family has been on the Big Islands for almost 30 years. So I've been here quite a bit. This is the book I wrote, Great Maui Land Grab. You can get it at greatmaui.fire.com, greatmauifire.com. You can learn more about this book. What caused the Maui fire and is your home next is the tagline. So the first thing I want to show is the satellite images. Now, these images we got from Bruce Douglas, who lives on Maui. He lives on Maui, and he has been studying the weather on the islands for 15 years. So he was very observant of what was happening with the weather the day before and the day of the fire. This is the day before. This is August 7th, 2023. And what he saw sitting on his lanai was linear clouds coming to the islands. But if you look on the left, they don't go past the islands. So these linear clouds were coming in, stopping on the Hawaii Islands and not moving past. Another person saw this day, August 7th. She's a friend of mine here on Big Island, and she works for national security. She's a national security contractor, and she just happened to be flying back to the mainland on August 7th and saw these clouds above on an airplane. So we had Bruce, who saw them on land sitting on Maui, and then a friend of mine saw them above the clouds in an airplane. And she said she'd never seen anything like it before. She said she saw, it was like a checkered board. It was like clouds, then blue sky, then clouds and blue sky. And it was just, she said it was very odd. So what people need to understand is what could create this. Well, this is HARP. And this is it's high frequency active auroral research program. And it's called the Dome, sitting in Honolulu Harbor in Oahu. So this it can actually heat up the ionosphere and then turn it off. This is what Bruce was saying about how this works with the linear clouds. He says an apparatus like this, Harp Dome, can heat up the ionosphere and then turn it off, heat it up and turn it off, and it'll create kind of those linear clouds. Now, we don't know why, but this technology is available. Not only is Harp Dome in Oahu, but there's one here on Big Island. It's on the Kohala coast, which is the tip of Big Island, the closest to Maui. So Maui is right in the middle of these two apparatuses that can affect the weather.
And,
so I will be showing.
Michelle, I don't want to interrupt, but I want to mention
please do.
to our audience, to our listeners, that the HARP program actually started back as weather modification during World War II, and it became a full-blown program in the mid-1970s. And they built a project, HARP project in Alaska, where they did these initial experiments on heating the ionosphere using electromagnetic waves to heat the ionosphere and change weather patterns. And so this is not a new technology. It's a very trusted and old technology to modify weather.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm going to show you guys the actual act through Congress that allowed them to do more research on weather modification. So this is also on the day before the fire. This was again from Bruce Douglas, and he is a founder of Maui Community Investigates.com. Maui Community Investigates is a group of people from Maui that are trying to show how this fire was not normal. This was the first day, or the day before. On the left, you'll see the normal day, and then the next picture is the day before the fire. You actually see this white haze, and then again, same thing on the next pictures. You see a normal day, and then you see this haze. Now, I actually did a video with this woman, and her video is gone. I cannot find it anymore, but this video can be found on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Blossom Inner Wellness. And what she's literally doing is she has her camera, and she's taking a picture, a video of the sky. And she says, there is this white haze that has surrounded all of Maui. Does anybody know what this is? So this was the day before the fire. And then the day of the fire, here's another satellite image. This is the evening, 8 p.m., because these satellite images are taken twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. This is the day of the fire. The fire is happening right now. However, Maui is completely blacked out. The satellite image is completely over Maui. The day of the fire is happening right in this picture, but you cannot see what's going on. Now, in all fairness, this does sometimes happen, but it just so happened to be the exact time, the exact day of the fire, and we cannot see Maui and what's happening. But you can see the linear clouds still coming in from the upper east side, coming from the east, northeast coming down, and no clouds still passing the islands. So this is the weather. These are a couple of pictures. Again, you'll find these in the book, as well, along with 9 other questionable weather events. Now, the governor, Hawaii Governor Green, went to the UN, and the first thing out of his mouth is, this was a fire hurricane. It came from Hurricane Dora. This hurricane was 500 to 600 miles from Maui. And this, what the wind was coming northeast, so it was coming down. It was coming down northeast from the upper right-hand side, coming down, flowing down. And the hurricane was also going northeast, 500 to 600 miles away. This is a meteorologist, Chief Meteorologist Mark Finan, and he said this was a live interview on August 8th that he was doing this. KCRA Channel 3 weather, and he literally says, I don't think it played much, and he's talking about it being Hurricane Dora, it played much in the role at all in the winds. So he doesn't believe it came from the hurricane. Also, Bruce Douglas, again, who has studied weather for 15 years, says that the winds from a hurricane cannot go past 50 miles. It can't go more than 50 miles away from the hurricane, and this hurricane was 500 to 600 miles away. The other thing I want to share about this is that in Hawaii legislation right now, they have bills that state the fire was caused by Hurricane Dora. They literally state it, even though, I don't know if you can see that. Let me I'm going to take this off really quick. Put this back on. Even though the legislative body is not responsible for saying how a fire got started, right. But yet they have in legislation, they want people to believe that it was from Hurricane Dora, that these winds came from Hurricane Dora, when they could not have come from Hurricane Dora, literally by 2 experts saying this. The next thing I want to share is that the fire went against the wind. So the fire was the wind was coming from the northeast, and the fire went north, south, east, west. It went all 4 directions. It actually jumped over a construction zone with 2x4s exposed, with the complete foundation exposed of wood. Nothing damaged, no damage, no smolder, nothing burnt at all, nothing scorched. And yet it jumped over that construction zone and burned and melted the cars that were parked in the parking lot next door, in the next parking lot. And it left the trees. And I'll actually show you guys a picture of that. The best warning system in the world, this is actually down the street from my house. This is a warning system that goes off the first Sunday of the month. Every first Sunday of the month at noon, these sirens are tested. And this is right down the street from my house. The best warning system in the world for natural dangers didn't go off. And here's the story why. Herman Arnanda, he was the chief person in charge of the Maui Emergency Center. And he literally stated that he didn't put the sirens on because he was worried people would run into the fire. He said, yeah, this is what this man said.
I read that in your book, yeah.
Yes, he said, and so when he did that, he actually was asked later on if he regretted it, and he said no, he didn't regret not turning the best warning system in the world on. And literally on their website, it says that it's for tsunamis, but it also says wildfires on their website. So he cannot claim that it's not for a wildfire. It was very interesting about him because he had 0 emergency management experience. He beat out 40 different applicants of other people who had emergency management experience. His last job was the assistant to one of the mayors that was on Maui. And so his 0 experience in the emergency area, management area, and yet he beat out 40 different applicants to get this job. He was never reprimanded. He was never fired. He eventually stepped down, stating health issues. And that was that was this man who did this. The blue things didn't burn. This is really strange. This was pulled right out. This video, he's on video. I did the screenshot. This is Eric West, who has put a ton out on about Maui, and he can be found on YouTube at Hawaii Real Estate. Yeah, I think it's Hawaii Real Estate. But he literally was doing a video, stuck his hand in the white ash right under there, and pulls out this blue ticket. And it's a ticket for a submarine ride. And you can barely see there's anything wrong with it. He pulled it. It was in the white ash. The other things that didn't burn, these blue T-shirts. I'm going to move this over here a little bit. There was six or seven blue T-shirts completely intact, no holes, no burn marks. There was these blue umbrellas. These are the Tommy Bahama umbrellas right next to a devastated building, completely demolished, white ash. And there's this wooden pillar, wooden beam that's right next to the blue umbrellas, completely, you know, I think this beam looks like it's a little bit charred, but nothing is wrong with these umbrellas. Nothing, no holes. And this next one's my favorite. This is my friend who sent me this video, or this image. This is her stove, completely gone. Her house was gone. You can see in the front that the glass was melted out of the front window there. The racks inside are warped, but look at that beautiful blue color inside. It's shining. It's not touched at all. So the reason for why things didn't burn was because when a laser, a blue laser, microwave frequency blue laser creates a fire, that blue frequency is the same frequency as a blue, anything blue. It's the same wavelength. So it actually doesn't absorb that blue color, that blue laser. It reflects it, so it won't burn. Anything else that's not blue is going to absorb the laser and going to burn, especially metal. And this is why, see what my next picture is, it's fire anomalies. This is why the trees didn't burn, and I'm going to explain that in a second, but I want to show you more fire anomalies. And the book, again, The Great Maui Fire, you can get it, Great Maui Land Grab, you can get it at greatmauifire.com. The book is going to show you 23 different fire anomalies. This is just 4 more.
And Michelle, I wanted to
mention please.
Too, I saw a picture early on of a church that had a blue metal roof, and the entire building around it was destroyed, and the roof was in perfect condition, and anything that was directly under that roof was in good shape. Yes, and there's many different things that have been blue. There was a blue boat, so the fire reaches out and melts all the boats in the harbor except for this blue boat. This blue boat stayed fully intact. And there's a house that actually that's in the pictures in the book. This house, the house's roof was actually red, but the house had no marks on it, and there's something to do with we think it's because the home had just been redone with everything was wood. There was no metal around the house. It seemed like anything that was touching metal, if it was organic, like a tree, it would have some cinder on it, or something would be a little bit charred. But if it was not touching metal, including plastic trash cans, completely intact, because they're not around anything that was metal. So a little bit more of the fire anomalies that happened that day, and believe me, this is just 4 of them. This is the Maui Emergency Center's sign-in sheet. Now this sign-in sheet, people who go to the emergency center, which all of the departments, the police, the fire, all of the departments for emergencies are supposed to go to this one center so they can talk to each other and get, things done really, really quickly. Well, these names were redacted. There was about 32 names that day. They're supposed to sign in, they're supposed to sign out. So everybody knows what time they're in and what time they're out.
but there was, I think it was 26 that were redacted. 26 names blocked off. Some signed in, some didn't sign out. The mayor, he didn't even sign out at this one point. And this took a really long time to get this sign-in sheet to be available to the public. They had to do a FOIA request and wait months just for them to get this redacted sign-in sheet. So why? We have a lot of questions that are not being answered. The other thing, and sorry, but I don't know how to move our screen, benzene and toluene were found in the Maui water supply after the fire. That had never happened before. Benzene and toluene. Benzene is highly flammable, and toluene, this is what was on the news. The news was saying toluene has been found in the Maui water supply. Toluene is made for glue and markers and different things like that, but they never said what it is used most for. TNT, dynamite. It's used mostly for TNT, toluene. It was found in the water supply. They had to truck in water for the people to use because they could not drink their water. The other thing,
Michelle, wasn't the water system and the power turned off?
That's another fire anomaly. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. What happened with that? Oh, that one just boils my blood because they had. So in Maui, they have to divert the water in different places to share the water supply. And they were diverting the water to one taro farmer who was growing taro. And the fire department was like, will you please bring the water to Lahaina? And they said they had to get permission from the farmer to divert it. So when the firemen went to use the water in Lahaina, nothing came out of the fire hydrants because it was being diverted to one farmer downstream. And the guy who was responsible for that, and his name is escaping me, but it's in the book, he also did not get reprimanded for that. He also did not get fired. He also did step down. And he said he wanted to spend more time with his family. So that is the truth of what happened. There was a man who said he was saving his house by using the water, and then all of a sudden the water turned off. So that's something that the governor does not talk about it at the UN, which I'll be talking about him at the UN shortly. So the other thing that is another fire anomaly I wanted to share is that within less than 2 weeks, $2.8 million was approved for a 5-mile long dust screen that went around the entire burn zone in Lahaina. Now, if you look at this dust screen, you'll see the trees are on the inside. The inside is the burn zone. How come the trees are standing in the burn zone? Their leaves are still there. Their branches are still there. That's stuff that should have gone up like kindling, but it didn't. It's inside the 5-mile dust screen. I asked a firefighter who's Captain Matt Dankin. He's been in the fire industry for 33 years. And I asked him, is it normal to put a dust screen around a whole burn zone? He said, absolutely not. He said the only reason they would do that is because they're trying to hide something. And here's the thing that people need to understand. After the fire, no media, no homeowners were not allowed back into their home, and media was not allowed anywhere near the burn zone. If you stopped anywhere near the burn zone, you would be accosted by police. And these were not normal local police. Once in a while, it was a normal local police, but there were special policemen that were there in these big cars. I don't know what they were, but they would stop you, and they would either give you a ticket or they would even arrest you if you were trying to take pictures. I believe this is the next one. Okay, the police blocking is the next one. But the FAA stopped any planes from flying over Maui. You could not fly drones. You could not have an airplane go over the burn zone. Why? Why did that happen? Also, during the day of the fire, there were police blocks. I have a friend of mine from Maui who shared with me her story that she barely got out. She saw the fire. She jumped. She ran down the street and she actually found her daughter who was right down the street. There was a cop there, and the mom said, "We have to go. The fire's coming." And they went around the blockade and got out. And she said there was nothing that should have been causing that. There was no telephone poles. You can even see the telephone poles right now in the picture. There's no telephone poles that were down. At first, the police chief said that that there were not police blockades, but there was so many testimonies coming forward that there were police blockades that he had to change his tune. And then later on, he said there were police blockades because of the telephone poles. And to be fair, there were some telephone poles that were down. However, the electricity had gone out earlier before the fire. Before the fire, the electricity and cell phones, all of that infrastructure was down before the fire happened.
And that was one of the reasons that so many children were at home during the fire, because the schools were shut down because there was no power available in that whole community.
The children were home, and I'm going to be talking about them in a moment, but we do not know the exact number. I'm going to talk about the death toll as well. But yes, the children, one thing about Hawaii is that the keiki, or the children, when they're home, they're either home with their grandparents or they're home by themselves. So, because both parents are working to basically survive in Hawaii, in their native land. So we're going to talk about the children in a moment. Police Chief John Pelleter, he's the same guy that was responsible for looking over the Mandalay Bay shooting, which was the worst shooting in U.S. history. And now he's in charge of the worst fire in U.S. history. And here's the thing, that you could not be a police chief unless you had 1 year residency in Maui. That was the law. But they actually changed the law. Not only, it was a couple years before him, and then I think it was a few months. There was different things that they changed about the law, but basically they changed the law so it literally stated that after you, and it was only for the police chief's job, you guys. It was only for the police chief's job that they changed the 1 year residency. This was before Pelleter was hired. Very odd, and they changed it so that after you became a police chief, you had 30 days to be a resident of Maui. So they went from 1 year residency to 30 days after you're hired. And that was actually before he was hired on. So there's a lot of things about John Pelleter that I can discuss. So you'll see a lot of them in the book. But this man, it's very, very questionable about how he beat out, I think it was 17 locals that wanted the position, and a lot of things that were interesting around his hiring. I'll just say that.
Michelle, just so you know, we did have several eyewitnesses and people that were around, including in the crowd that were shot at during the Las Vegas shootings. And there's a huge cover-up. That's all I can say. There's no doubt that there was a huge cover-up of that shooting, because it did not come down the way they tried to make it
Correct.
Portray it as. So,
you know what's so great about truth is you cannot stay hidden forever. The truth cannot stay hidden forever. They would love it too, but you can, especially with shows like yours and the people listening and the people that share this information. The truth is like trying to hold water in your hand. It just keeps spilling out. So let's just keep doing our work, our kuleana, our responsibility, and watch what unfolds. Because I really believe that great spirit, infinite intelligence that's beating our hearts and running the tides in the ocean, it's time for people who do not value human life to peaceably be removed from power, or we get to watch as they voluntarily step down. And I truly feel that that is this time. And with people like you and me and other people speaking the truth and sharing the truth. So if you're listening to this and maybe you're not, you don't have access to do a lot of research on this stuff, but you can share this podcast, you can share these links, you can share the book, Great Maui Land Grab. That's why, on the book, on that page, if you go to greatmaui.fire.com, you can actually purchase more than just one book, because sharing it is what's going to get this information out. We're not forgetting about Maui, and we're not forgetting about the other places around the world that have been attacked, like Paradise. And I wanted to just say, I didn't live in Paradise. My first job was in Paradise. My mother's still in Chico, which is 20 minutes down. And I'll be showing a picture of Paradise, because I did go there after the fire, and what I saw was just like this. It was just crazy. But this is a picture from MauiCommunityInvestigates.com. And again, that's local people trying to help get the truth out. But all these trees, like, look at the houses completely gone, like just white ash. And that means it was really, really hot. So something that's really, really hot that just takes a house to the foundation, no refrigerator, mostly no stove. The only reason my friend's stove survived is because of that blue inside her stove. But everything else is gone. But look at the trees. How do trees survive that? This is, I want to just share, this is the Tubbs Fire, 2017. This is where Captain Matt, he's a guy that I interviewed many times around these fires. But look at all the white ash. And the tree foliage is still there, dried. It's like the fire forgot to burn the trees. And here's why. I actually asked an arborist this question. He was a 48-year arborist, studied trees most of his life. And I asked him, how does a fire not burn a tree? It's a fire. He said, because the chemistry of the fire doesn't recognize the organic material. The actual chemistry of the fire that makes up the fire is different than a regular wildfire that just burns organic material. So this chemistry of the fire doesn't recognize the chemistry of the organic material. I'm going to show you some pictures, just a warning. Go ahead.
That's in a use of a microwave or a laser or some form of directed energy weapon that you're speaking about.
Correct. Absolutely. That's exactly what he said. He said the only thing that he sees as possible for these fires is microwave energy. That is microwave. What happens when you put metal in a microwave? It sparks up, it's not happy. So, but you put a chicken in there, it doesn't burn the chicken up, it doesn't spark up. But this is Tubbs Fire 2017. This is Paradise Fire 2018. And look at all of those houses with all the trees. Same thing with Maui. So we are under attack. This is an absolute attack. There's a warning for those of you. There is going to be a charred body here. But this is a charred dog. And he's running. It looks like he just got done running. And you can see his ears, his nose, his paws. Even there's another picture that I saw on YouTube that showed you could see his fur, like it's sticking out. This is a charred toad. My friend was in the Lahaina burn zone, found this toad completely intact. It looks like it's in mid-jump. Inside, completely hollow, because they burned from the inside out. The water is what burned, not the organic material. So my friend who also had this toad, he shared, he shared that he believes whatever happened immediately, which that is the grace of God for the people that have died, because it happened so fast. And my friend who's the firefighter, I asked him about this dog picture. He said, animals would not be in the street. This is the middle of the street. He said animals would be hiding under something. Mm-hmm. They would be hiding under something, and they would be tucking themselves in, trying to protect themselves. This dog was in the middle of the street, looks like in a run of some sort. And the toad is in mid-jump. How in the world does that happen? Now, this lady She found her 15-year-old boy perished in the wildfire, but she found his charred remains hugging their family dog. She found him fully intact, hugging their family dog, completely charred. And she said that she believes that God left him that way so she would remember him, not seeing that that's not how people die. And this is the image that I was going to share. Now, this is not a confirmation that this was from Lahaina. I have to say that. This video came out, no author, nothing that would show us who this person is who did this video of. We believe it's Lahaina because it came out the exact week after the fire. You can see corn rolls in the hair. You can see the fingers. I mean, even his clothing. But look at his upper left ankle. It's all the way burned down to the bone. And I'd say it's charred down to the bone. And the same with the upper picture. You see bones. We believe that something was happening with the ground. That the ground was maybe a more intense microwave frequency because it burned their feet a lot more than it did the upper body. But hopefully it happened right away. And again, this is not a confirmation that is from Lahaina. This video was posted after the week after Lahaina, though. Yeah, a lot of people gone. The death toll bouncing ball. 15 days after the fire, more than 1,100 missing, and the death toll, you can't see it, but it's 115. So that was 115, and that was 15 days after the fire. And then 38 days after the fire, more than 31 missing. And sorry, I can't get our picture down. I believe that goes down to, it's either 97, because it goes down to 97. Yeah, that's 97.
It's showing good on the screen, Michelle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You can see the death toll at 97 in the second one. Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah, so it goes 115, 97, 101. So I asked again my firefighter friend, is that possible? He goes, he's never in his 33 years seen a tragedy like the one in Lahaina where the death toll goes down. The governor said the reason why that happened was because the FBI got involved and they had better equipment and they were able to check the DNA. And when they saw one body, two bodies had the same DNA, then it was one person. So 101 is the official count, and 0 missing, 0 people missing, and 101 died is the official count. The possibility of that is nearly impossible because also people had to go into the water, and the state representative for Lahaina, she grew up in Lahaina. She was there during the fire. She survived the fire. She still speaks to the locals there, still is there trying to help the people. She said, Michelle, there was so many people in the water. If anybody had held on to something, the wind was going so fast, it would have blown them out to sea. She's like, there's people who will never be, who won't be accounted for. But yet there's 0. They had 1,100 missing. Go all the way down to 0 missing. They've accounted for everybody. How is that possible? They also have yellow flags for missing people and white crosses for death that a friend of mine counted. And there's more. There's like 147 that they have white crosses for, and I don't remember the count for the missing, but there's a lot more missing people, and yet the official count is 0. And then I do want to talk about the children, because again, about 4,000 children were, I believe that's the number of the Lahaina school of the kids, the keiki in the school districts is 4,000. They were at home by themselves or with grandparents, hopefully. And the state representative, Ellie Cochran, shared with me that she spoke with a child, a girl. She said that the girl said half of her kids, her friends, are gone. And Ellie didn't ask her, did they move off island? Because some people have moved off island, or did they die? And for, the official count for children who have died in this fire was 3.
Wow.
Out of 4,000 children at home by themselves, no warning system, probably no emergency plan. You know, we wouldn't have one. They wouldn't have a reason to have one. But yet just 3 are dead. No, I don't agree with that. And also the state representative for Lahaina does not agree with the death toll at all. Very, very tragic. So I wanted to go over the Weather Modification Act, because those of you, and I love that you've already been speaking what's been happening with the weather to your audience. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. In October 13th, 1976, this is the official document that shows the National Weather Modification Act that was put through Congress. And I'll just read one of the bullet points here. A review and analysis of research efforts and needs in weather modification technology. So this act passed through Congress in the 70s. That means they've been working with the weather, modifying the weather before the 70s. So it could be just 60s or 50s. I don't know. But this act
it went back,
Congress.
Michelle, all the way to the Second World War. They were actually using cloud seeding and things like that in the Second World War. And under Operation Paperclip, they brought many German scientists to the United States that were working actively in those areas as well. Yep.
Paperclip and the Nazis. I was just on another podcast and we were talking about the medical industry and who started that. And the Nazis were a part of that as well. This is a patent for a method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere and ionosphere. And I believe this is for HARP, because I believe it talks about the heating up the ionosphere. So I just want to show people this is true. This stuff is happening. This is a Direct Energy Weapon Systems Acquisition Act of 2016. So I'm just going to read this part to you guys. This bill passed through Congress in 2016, and here's why. Since the 1960s, the Department of Defense has invested more than $6 billion in direct energy science and technology initiatives, and that the committee is concerned, this is the Committee of Armed Services, that despite the significant investment, the department's direct energy initiatives are not resourced at levels necessary to transition them to full-scale acquisition program. So they weren't sure if they had enough money to actually move the direct energy weapons program and bring it to full fruition. So Congress acquired it in 2016. So that's really important for Americans to know. Here is a patent for a microwave transmission using laser-generated plasma beam waveguide. And this is a microwave, so this says in the abstract, a direct energy beam system uses an ultra-fast laser system, such as one using titanium, sapphire, infrared laser, but sapphire is a blue color, just so you know, to produce a thin ionizing beam through the atmosphere. The beam is moved and circular, and then, but I want to read, to produce a conductive shell to act as a waveguide for microwave energy. This technology is being used and is available. Now, this is just an example. We don't know what caused the Maui fire, but we do know this technology is being used. This is a drone called Morpheus, and it has a high-powered microwave beam that it's used on zapping other drones out of the sky. But it has microwave energy on board. So we don't know exactly what it was. Some people say they saw laser beams from the sky, but it could be a boat. A boat could have had some type of technology. These drones could have been used. We don't know exactly what was used. We just know the fire was not normal. How it killed people was not normal. What it burned and what it did not burn was not normal. And nothing is being investigated. No person, the entire emergency management system broke down to the foundation. I mean, what happened was absolutely not just ridiculous, but horrific to see the way that these emergency management people handled the worst tragedy in Hawaiian history, as far as, past 100 years, was horrific. And every one of them should be under investigation. 0 are under investigation. No one was fired. No one was reprimanded. It's just horrific. The first words out of the governor's mouth, I think it was less than a week after the fire, he says, this just boils my blood. I'm looking for ways for the state to acquire the land for workforce housing, is what our Governor Green of Hawaii said to the people after they just had their entire lives turned upside down and their homes destroyed and their ohana and their keiki murdered, in my opinion. And this is what our governor said. So I'm looking for ways for the state to get your land after it's been destroyed for workforce housing. That's what came out of our governor's mouth. And one of the things with workforce, the word workforce, if you look at on Maui, the official Maui site for the government, their workforce is throughout. They have this narrative of talking about workforce. They're supporting for workforce, and it's so anyway. The narrative is coming down, and I'm going to share how it's from the UN agenda, workforce acquiring stakeholders. That's the other thing we're going to be I'll be sharing as well. So you have to understand that Maui was set to be the first smart island, smart city, smart island here on the Hawaii Islands. And Maui's kind of the testing ground for a lot of things. But here's what it said. During the period of 2011 and 2016, there has been a smart community project called Jump Smart Maui, held in the island of Maui, Hawaii, with the objective of effective utilization of renewable energy that had been penetrating on a large scale and widespread deployment. Electric vehicles and smart community was constructed by Hawaiian and Japanese stakeholders, headed by the New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, NIDO, of Japan. Now, the word stakeholders is very important. If you are listening to this, go to your planning department and look at your general plan for your area. Then if ours on Big Island, it was over 200 pages. I took the whole thing, copied it into Word, put in find stakeholder, and the word stakeholder was written 47 times in our general plan on Big Island. So the word homeowner was written 0 times. That is why it's really important for your listeners, go to your planning department and look at what's coming in your area. That was set for Maui. Then
and Michelle, I can certainly reconfirm that, because when I was in Colorado, I was a planning commission chairman of the North Metro, North Glen area for about 10 years. And the American Planning Association has been implementing programs even before UN Agenda 21 that promoted a really, really concise and precise and controlling initiative to control how buildings are built. And not only that, but zoning and density and so many other issues that have to do with building in an urban area.
I love that you said density, because we have the word cluster here. So on the islands, we live in rural areas. I'm on a farm, and what they want to do is they want to cluster, because I think the word cluster was written 27 times in the general plan. They want to bring people out of the rural areas and put them into these clustered apartments, which if you're on island, that's not the way island people live, and that's not going to go down. So what's so amazing about this time is they're not going to get away with this. Just like this bill, 3381, was trying to get through the Maui legislative body. And this is, okay, do you see that the yellow arrow? That's where Lahaina is. It's one small area. This bill was going to take over the entire west coast of Maui to rebuild Lahaina. They were going to give the entire west coast of Maui to 9 people who would govern the west coast of Maui. They were going to take the entire west coast of Maui out of the governing body of Maui County and give it to this board of 9 people under this bill 3381.
Wow.
And this bill was horrific. It was authoritarian at its worst. I mean, it had things in there. It had clustered housing in there. It had there was just so many things. Actually, the book shares with you guys everything that was going to go down in this bill. The great thing is, it died, but not because of the people. There were over 200 people that opposed it. 16 people supported it. It passed. It moved to the next agency, and the chair of the next agency did not put it on the agenda, so it died. So there's still good people in legislation, and I just got to say much mahalo to her. Her name's in the book, and that whole story is in the book. But this is what was going down after the fire. This board would have, this is important part. The board shall create and implement expeditiously as possible, a community plan for the rebuilding, and it doesn't say Lahaina. It takes over the entire west coast of Maui. It doesn't say rebuilding Lahaina. It just says rebuilding within the district, which is the entire west coast of Maui, in coordination with all stakeholders. That sentence is word for word from that bill. This is why it is crucial for your audience to look at their general plan. If you guys see that word stakeholder, this is why you should be concerned with this. Who are the stakeholders? The creator of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, subscribes to the stakeholder theory, where every company is responsible for the society around them. And the thing is people need to understand is the United States of America hasn't been the United States of America since before the Civil War. What you want to understand is that during the Civil War, the North and the South needed funding, so they borrowed money from foreign bankers, from the elites, the Rothschilds. They're actually the first, Rothschilds were the first bankers ever, and I believe they started banking in the 1500s for, I think it was 1500s. But anyway, what happened after the Civil War, they didn't care, the bankers didn't care who won, because neither the North or the South, if they won, could repay them. So what happened was, we don't have the exact documentation, but somehow after the Civil War, the United States was put up as collateral to pay back these bankers, because the United States of America became the United States Corporation. And that's when that happened, was right after the Civil War.
1872.
1872, that's correct, yes. So what's happening now is it's going to the next level. All of the agencies in the United States are corporations. When you have a corporation, you have somebody that owns the corporation. And these guys are hidden really, really well, because they're hidden in these investment companies like BlackRock and Vanguard. And they're hidden so well, we don't know exactly who these people are. All we know is they get contracts. Guess who got the contract to rebuild Ukraine? It was BlackRock. Guess who owns Hawaii Electric Company? A lot of Hawaii people don't really know this, but BlackRock, Vanguard, Klaus Schwab Incorporated owns the Hawaii Electric Company. So a lot of the thing is, a stakeholder, the next thing that they're invested in are these renewable energy and smart cities, because they're going to bring up way more control against the regular people. So here's the Chinese model. This was the Chinese model is certainly a very, very attractive model for quite a number of countries, and that's what Klaus Schwab said in this video that I took a screenshot of from Yellow Forum, and stakeholder communism. And these unelected officials, like the unelected officials that wanted Maui to be the first smart city from 2011 to 2016. Nobody voted for these guys. Nobody said, yeah, let's have Maui be the first smart city. These people just said, we're going to do this. We're going to go forward with this. And this is what the people are going to get. You know, these people are not elected by us. We didn't say yes to this. So it's something people need to be aware of. So let's go back to the governor speaking at the United Nations, because this is all coming around full circle. Why in the world is a governor speaking at the United Nations? He's not the leader of a country, but the reason why is because it goes with their narrative of climate change. The one message he had throughout his entire speech was that the Maui fire was caused by climate change. And he says, and we're looking at it over here and we're looking at it over there. And but this is not the truth. When you look at the experts in the field of weather, meteorologists, climatologists, they are saying the exact opposite. They say, yes, climate change happens every moment of the day, but it's not dangerous. In fact, Dr. David Dilley, who was, believe it was a meteorologist for the Navy. He has his resume is pages long. He's talking about the Milankovitch cycle and how the sun was the closest to the earth 800 years ago. 800 years ago, the sun was at its closest part to the earth, and that now we are going into a cooling phase. So which means the earth is cooling.
That was known, Michelle, as the medieval warm period. That's when they were growing grapes in Greenland and had vineyards in Greenland.
Yep. So that was 800 years ago. And there's more to share about climate change. I'm looking forward to this. So this is the reason why they're doing this is because the UN and why they allowed a governor to speak to the leaders of the world. I don't know any other tragedy where they go, oh, let's have the governor go speak to the UN leaders, but they did for Hawaii. So you have to see what the UN goals are. And in the book, The Great Maui Land Grab, again, it has all of them, and it questions all of them. And so these goals have very flowery, fun language, like, oh yeah, I want that. Goal number 2, end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, promote sustainable agriculture. Who doesn't want that? But at what cost?
Well, Klaus Schwab doesn't. He wants you to eat the bugs.
That's what they're talking about, though, Dan. To achieve food security, let's make all your food out of bugs or plastic. The other day, I saw this video of a watermelon that you could not break apart. It was like flimsy, or a banana that wouldn't break apart. It was like, and that's food security in their eyes. Let's give them plastic and bugs. Ensuring healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. What just happened? What just happened with the COVID? You know, so who's going to decide what well-being is? These goals should be freaking people out. The promote peaceful and inclusive, everything's always inclusive, which is also leaning toward communism. Inclusive societies for sustainable development, they love the word sustainable, provide access to justice for all, who's going to be deciding on these new laws, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. That is really scary. That is the number 16th, and I believe they have 17 goals for the UN. So all of these look, good on the surface, but when you dig deep, you have an amazing iceberg of complete control, communism, authoritarianism, and it's not going to go down because you and I are helping people wake up, and people listening are waking up and deciding, I'm going to go look at my planning department and I'm going to speak out, because that's what we need. They want us, you guys, to be tired. They want us to feel like we don't have a voice. Nothing's going to change. We don't have power to change this. We do have power. You guys, I'm a fitness trainer, 30 years, and I'm like, no way is what happened to Maui going to be forgotten on my watch. That's why I wrote this book, because those murdered people, which in our opinion on the islands is probably hundreds, if not thousands, of our keiki, of our children that died alone, incinerated. That is not going to be ignored on my watch. And so you listening, there's something inside of you that's going to spark your action follow it, because it's not an accident that happens. Like Dan, you starting this podcast, that wasn't an accident. You were inspired by something that is still beating our hearts and breathing our bodies. Climate change narrative. This is something I found researching one of the chapters in the book. The British judge. So what happened was, let me give you the full background story of this. There was a teacher that wanted to stop them showing an inconvenient truth. They wanted to make an inconvenient truth, which was the film that Vice President Gore, a former Vice President Al Gore, made, and it's called An Inconvenient Truth. It talks all about climate change, and they wanted to use this in all the schools. But this teacher said no, because it's not true. He took them to court, and the British judge, this was in England, the UK, and a British judge ruled that the Oscar-winning film had 9 errors, that there were 9 major errors wrong in this movie, in this documentary. And one of them was, or 2 of them actually, was that the film suggested that the evidence from the ice cores proves that the rise in CO2 levels causes temperatures to increase over 650,000 years. But the court found that the CO2 lagged behind the temperatures. And that is actually true. Another person that I was watching, and Arlington Institute, his name is escaping me, but he's from the Arlington Institute. He literally said CO2 is the side effect from the earth warming up. It doesn't cause it. It's the side effect, and it happens 800, and this says 800 to 2,000 years after the earth warms up. So it doesn't have anything to do with CO2, but yet they want to give us a CO2 footprint. So, if you go outside your CO2 footprint, you're going to be fined. This is the stuff that they're saying that they want to do, especially in the smart cities, which is coming up. And you probably know about a little bit about the CO2 as well. You're nodding your head about that.
Well, first of all, CO2 is a gas of life. CO2 levels make up a total, and this includes all natural and man-made CO2s, make up a total of 0.3% of the Earth's atmosphere. Most of that is actually water vapor. The human contribution to that 0.3% is actually 0.4% of the total. And that's the human contribution to it. So it's a very minuscule amount. And in fact, our CO2 levels right now, we are in what would be considered a growth desert, because we are at some of the lowest levels of CO2 that we've been in the Earth's entire history. And at many times, including times when the dinosaurs roamed the Earth, our CO2 levels were 3 to 4 times as high as they are today.
And we're actually in the danger zone of needing more CO2 than less CO2.
Right.
Yeah, that's what Greg Braden was talking about.
And,
I can't remember how many parts per million you said.
And only under the Obama administration did the EPA actually list CO2 as a dangerous gas. Now, CO2, if anybody's familiar with greenhouses, CO2 levels are raised in greenhouses in the spring to increase the growth of plants and also to reduce the levels of water that these plants need, because in a CO2 rich environment, you need less water and you have much healthier plants, which incidentally creates more oxygen, which humans breathe.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're speaking my language here. So this was actually found, and that's why the inconvenient truth is not being shown in the schools like they wanted it to be. World Climate Declaration, over almost 2,000 certified scientists, you had to prove that you were a certified scientist. You couldn't just sign this declaration and say, I'm a scientist. You had to be a credentialed scientist to sign this World Climate Declaration. And over almost 2,000 have signed. There is no climate emergency. A friend of mine who works for the national security wanted to sign this, but she's not a scientist, so they wouldn't let her sign it. Mm-hmm. So you can actually go to World Climate Declaration, I believe it's .com, and see all of the scientists from every single country who have put their name to this declaration. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk about sustainable energy because this is really important that they're not talking about. Sustainable energy, this is John Coleman. He was the founder of the Weather Channel in the 80s, original weatherman on Good Morning America in the 70s. And he literally talks about how sustainable energy is actually more expensive than fossil fuels. And it's also more dangerous. What people don't understand, especially about electric cars, what people should know. This is Fire Chief Jeff Beaumonk, and he was talking about a fire in a car. So a regular gas fire, a regular car that just drives regular gas, gets on fire. He said it takes 5 minutes to put out and between 500 to 750 gallons of water for a regular car. An electric vehicle takes a duration of trying to put that thing out is 2 hours or more to put it out. And the water that's needed, he said, it's between 2,500 and 25,000 gallons of water. And the reason is because of the batteries. The batteries are in a very hard place to basically get the fire out, because those are usually what causes the fire. There have been articles of electric cars being on boats. And how do we get stuff here on the islands? Boat. A lot of it is through airplanes, but cars come over the ocean. So there was a boat that was transporting these electric vehicles, and they had a fire, and the captain said he believes it came from the electric vehicle, but they can't prove it. The boat's at the bottom of the ocean. But he believes that is how the fire started. So we have not been told what really these electric cars are about. I also had a friend of mine who is a naturopath, a chiropractor, a naturopathic doctor, and she talked about the dangers of the energy coming from these batteries into the human body. She said the batteries are located under the car, so they're under the seats. And she said that the battery can actually has some effects on the human body. If you guys want to read that whole thing that she shared, she's anonymous. I'm not going to share her name. It's just, but her comments of that are in the book. You can get it at greatmaui.fire.com. But these energies we need to look at, because they want us to have more expensive energies, and that things that are more dangerous to our livelihood. So it's stuff to look at when they're talking about sustainable energies. The smart cities. Now this is a definition. This is not a confirmed definition for smart. I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's nothing that is an acronym for the reason why they have smart cities. However, this definition is used by many when we talk about it, because it's surveillance, monitoring, analysis, reporting technology, which is exactly what these smart cities are doing. And I do want to do a shout out to a lawyer that I've been watching, his Greg, I can't remember his name, but he just won a case in Los Angeles against the digital ID. That he actually won a case so that people do not have to be required to use digital IDs, that people can opt out if they choose to. And this was a really, really big win for all of us, because him doing that sets a precedent for the rest of us to not have to have a digital ID. I will be working on getting him on my own podcast to learn more about what he did, so that we all can model that, because the digital ID is going to basically take privacy out the window for all of us, and we definitely don't want that. Dan, do you want to say anything about the smart cities?
Well, you got the definition very, very good. And what I can say with the smart cities is the whole program is part of Agenda 21. It is connecting all of our appliances, all things that use energy, to a surveillance grid so that if they determine you're using too much energy or using it in the wrong place, they can shut it down.
Yep.
And that includes air conditioning, heating, that includes all electricity. So I highly recommend that people who live in these areas make sure that your electric meter is not a smart meter, because there are an awful lot of problems with the smart meters as well.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, excuse me, wanted to share something about that with the fire. Two things around the smart meters. They were melted.
Mhm.
They not only were they just melted, there was this, in Paradise, this happened as well. The firefighter I was telling you about earlier, there was a shed, and it was completely closed, and the metal shed, there was nothing wrong with it, but he opened it up, and inside was a melted smart meter, just completely melted. And then in Maui, we had a lot of meters that were just melted, just completely melted.
Mhm.
So yes, the
In
other thing I
fact,
want to,
in Paradise, they determined that they thought that some of the fires were actually started by smart meters. I'm not sure that's the case, but that they were at locations where a huge amount of damage occurred right around that meter.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So 15-minute cities is where they're headed with all of this, you guys. And this is already it's called the Line in Saudi Arabia. No roads, cars, or emissions. It will run 100% renewable energy, and 95% of land will be preserved for nature. They do not want people in nature. So it'll be preserved for nature. People's health and well-being, because we all know that how much they care about our health and well-being, will be prioritized over transportation and infrastructure, unlike traditional cities. So that means control. The line will eventually accommodate 9 million people and will be built on a footprint, sorry about that, of just over 21 square miles. So let me close this out. This guy always comes up once in a while. But this is a line, and it is in Saudi Arabia. And I do believe people are already living in it. So this is something to really be concerned with, and I love that people are talking about this and showing the evidence of what is possibly coming for us. And I want to say possibly, but unless we do something, things like this are what their plan is. They want to preserve nature for nature, not for people. And I've heard recently that over in Yosemite, which I used to go to, they're changing it up so people can't be in certain areas. So that breaks my heart as well. But what would you like to say about the 15-minute smart cities, Dan?
Well, Michelle, I can say that according to UN Agenda 21 and the whole program, that would turn most of America back into pre-Columbian wilderness, that the cities are destined to be an extremely small percentage of the total land mass of the United States. And we're talking a maximum now of 2%, but I think it's much less than that actually. And so 98% of the United States will be part of the let's call it the pre-Columbian wilderness. There will be areas in there where farming and agriculture will happen, but they'll be in extremely controlled circumstances. And they're talking a lot about changing our diets and everything else about the human condition to work within these smart cities and this sustainable future that they see for us.
Yes. Yep. And just wanted to do one more, I think. And okay, I wanted just to show everybody, because those people who still don't understand the United States as a corporation, it's not the United States of America anymore. It's not what the founding fathers wanted for this country. And the people who are behind it are also in the WEF, World Economic Forum, UN, United Nations. They're all the same. But I wanted to show, this is from the U.S. Department of Transportation. On the left side, you have all the states, well, not all of them, but the ones you can see. The United States Corporation Company. It is a company. The United States is a company. It is not a government for the people, by the people anymore. And what I love about Jack and Margie Flynn, who were at the Red Pill Expo, is that they are helping bring back the original organic constitution. That is our saving grace. That is really our saving grace. So in the book, I also share, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this? And it's by holding these elected officials accountable to their oath of office. We have to step up and hold these guys accountable, because if we don't, this is possibly what is coming in our near future, and that is not okay with me. So on our end, on my end, I will be going to Maui shortly, because my goal is to take some of these officials to civil court, because Maui the fire should be investigated. And there's so much evidence that it was not normal, and that there was something nefarious that was happening. So that's my kuleana. That's what I feel is my mind to do. But I'm just telling you guys, what is yours to do? And you follow your heart, and it's something that's inside of you that goes, I want to do that. And you'll be pulled to it. You'll be pulled to it, and follow that, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here on the planet. Check your local planning department is what you can do. Watch the bills going through legislation. That's really important. Read them. Know the Constitution and know your rights. The Constitution is what is going to save our tails here. And then create a relationship with your higher power. I always do prayers in all my podcasts, because the infinite source that is growing the plants behind me and beating my heart and beating your heart, there's a plan here. And I believe that us little people here on this earth, that we do have our job to help. But I do believe there is a higher power, that the darkness is ending its control and its power. And that is when it's most dangerous, because when a dog is put up against, in the corner and fighting for its life, that's when you got to watch out. But we have something that's even greater than any darkness, and that's infinite intelligence that is moving the sun and running the tides in the ocean and guiding the honeybees to their next flower. That intelligence is all around us. This empty space is not empty. This is a frequency field. And when we feel into the knowingness that we are free, we are sovereign, this world is at peace, and with all people, that we live in harmony with each other and with nature, and we call that forth, and we say, that is it, that is happening, and we follow our guided intuition, that is what shows up. And I truly feel that's what's coming for all of us. And this is the book that I wrote. You can get it at greatmauifire.com. It's not just about Maui. It's about the chronological history of how these banking elite people have taken over the country, and what we can do about it, because this is our time. The attack on Maui, the attack at the Tubbs fire, the attack on Paradise, the attack, and keep going and going and going. Mm-hmm. If people don't see it for what it is, which is not normal, it was an attack. There is an awakening happening. It's like, we need to see it. We need to first acknowledge Maui was attacked. Those people were murdered. That is what happened. Now what do? Now we hold the people that ignored it accountable.